The truth?
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay. The truth.
I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Hello and welcome back to Truthful Talk. I am your host, Marco DiGeorge, and today we're trying something new. We have these camera things going, so we're going to see if this actually works. So let me introduce once again, who needs no introduction, my co-host, Natalie Boulaish.
Hello, Marco.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
See,
I'm good.
You're on camera today.
I'm on camera. I see them.
Right, isn't that interesting how we have these things? And see, and look at this. I can even have us on. We're on camera at the same time.
It's a big day for us here.
This is so cool.
It is.
But it's also a big day because we have a special guest with us today. And in studio with us is Chris Sheeran. Hello, Chris.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So for all of you out there, Chris is a actor filmmaker. And today we wanted to actually talk a little bit about what that involves, because you came from the filmmaking world.
Correct.
And then started acting.
Yes.
So what was that experience like?
As a filmmaker, I started in the music video genre, getting my feet wet with learning camera work, lighting, composition. And that kind of led into some of the artists wanting to make skits before their videos or after their videos or marketing material. So I started capturing sound on set. And the more content that I would produce, it would kind of capture the eye of other small businesses in the area that I was in. They would DM me, be like, hey, could you make us Instagram content as well? So I go on site, make more content. And next thing you know, I'm making my own stuff for fun. But the missing ingredient was always acting. I didn't know this before, but I knew there was like a human element that was missing to the storytelling. From a logistical, technical point, the filmmaking was there. But the heart and the human condition wasn't there yet. So when I moved to Orlando, Florida, I was working for kind of like a mortgage firm, making their content here. And I wanted to work with the on-screen talent a little bit better because they were not built for the screen by any means. So it was very hard to get them to be believable and camera ready, basically. So I looked up some acting classes and I found the wonderful Truthful Acting Studios, came to an open house, and that began my journey of training as an actor here. And I caught the bug, and full circle, I'm going into my second year training here. And not only do I love the craft of acting and the depths of the artistry that it takes and the skill level that you need to have to tell a good story live in the moment, but it has also, full circle once again, sharpened my skills as a writer, as a director, as a cameraman, just looking for the emotion in a scene. And so for that, I'm deeply grateful to be here.
So it was just the fact of being a filmmaker. You wanted to deepen that. That was the inspiring cause, so to speak. And yeah,
correct. Yeah, watching movies. Some of my favorite films. They do something to you. They make you feel something. So while all of my filmmaking is self-taught, I went to YouTube University.
I love it.
I didn't go to film school. So everything that I learned was on the job, on the fly. And once again, the technical aspects were always there. Great lighting, great cinematic shots, and all of that. And I know how to run a proficient crew very fast on the fly. But I wanted it to feel like my favorite movies, and it just wasn't there. And I didn't know that it was acting that I was missing, because the writing would also be good there. But to instill the heart, you need a good actor, whether that's voice acting or visually in person, to capture that emotion. It's so necessary for a good story.
So did you know, like when you were filmmaking to begin with, did you know it was an acting thing that was missing, or did you just feel like you didn't know what it was and you thought acting could help, or what was that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I had no idea. I had no idea it was the missing link. I thought I had all the pieces together. I was like, oh, I'm a filmmaker, and I have it all figured out, and what I make is amazing. Until I started training as an actor, and I understood present moment. I understood emotion. I understood what we call a doing, or motivation, if you will. And that really translates to the audience in a way that makes us feel something like we do with music. And it's this magic that we can't explain or show. It's a skill that you build over time. And so if I could say anything to any up and coming filmmakers, whether you're in film school or you learn how I did, take an acting class, because it will absolutely further your filmmaking, storytelling abilities. I tell up and coming filmmakers all the time in person, the technical aspects are a slither of a good storyteller. Because right now I can shoot something amazing on my iPhone if I have great actors,
right,
and a good story. But if you give me $150,000 camera and somebody that doesn't know how to tell the story in front of the camera, it's going to fall flat and it's not going to resonate. So the acting was a missing piece that I had no idea was a missing piece on my journey.
Wow. And Nat, have you done any filmmaking, or? I mean, as an actor you have, but have you explored anything behind?
No. And I have so much respect for people who do. You direct, and I've had the pleasure of working with Chris and being directed with Chris, and actually working with him as an actor on set. And it blows my mind that he's so, I would say, on a second year journey, because there's so much that you have that a lot of actors don't have, and that we're looking for a director who understands the language of an actor. A lot of directors are, let's say, technical, or it's just not as, that also falls flat. So you being open enough, and some directors I know are in your class taking classes, and they also have their eyes open to say, I want to learn how to talk to actors, and I want to be on their side, I guess. But working with him, I thought he's been here for years. I thought the way he was handling the set, the moments, the relationships, the importance of it was all there. And it's just incredible. And then, of course, your stylistic qualities that you have from the lens of a director, what you're seeing is it's beautiful. It's unique and crisp. And it's just, I can see the love and the professionalism that he utilizes with it from someone who is YouTube college learned. That just also is like a testament to the amount of passion that you have, and that, I want to say, go-getter attitude, but it's fearlessness, and just, it's incredible to see. Like,
Thank you.
It's amazing. It was so amazing to work with you.
Thank you. You were one of my first actors to work with. I was terrified. It was like
could
working
not
with
tell.
Denzel.
I could not. It was such a pleasure, but it's incredible. It's crazy. So awesome.
Well, and that's pretty good too.
Oh,
yeah.
Pretty good.
And that is trained by the best.
But working with somebody that is not afraid, I say not afraid. I know we were always intimidated as actors, but when you have the willingness to just go in there and do it, like, that's why I love working with you, Nat, is I know there's still intimidating moments when we're going through rehearsal process and everything else, but you do it.
Yeah.
Even through the intimidation, you're willing to try.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference in the world. I know you've run into that, Chris, as a director, that it's when you work with actors that are willing to go there.
Yeah, it's true. That if you have an actor that you give a note to and they're willing to take it where they want to take it. I'm not looking for something specific here. I'm looking to give you a direction and you go wherever you need to go with that. And I learned a lot of that from you, watching you direct us in class. And that opens up a world of possibilities, because another thing that I learned as a filmmaker on this acting journey is it's not one person's idea. It's a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes an actor will bring you something way more beautiful than you could even imagine in your own brain. And so that there's this give and take that needs to happen on set as well.
For sure.
And I know that's you working with Nat. You've talked about that, of how she's just so giving.
So giving of in the moment. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And vice versa. When you work as an actor with a director who gives you something you didn't think of or somewhere to go and explore, it's a treasure. It's a treasure. It really is. Instead of somebody who's like, no, this, buy the book and this is what I want, or I don't know.
Speaking on that I feel as though that was, had I not taken acting classes, my music video directing skills really relied on talent from the musician. Just like Natalie, the musicians that I've worked with before automatically know how to give me truthful emotion in the moment because they're connected to their lyrics. So they're not pretending. So they make my job a lot easier. But if I had to work with an artist that I needed something from them, it would have been false. Whereas working with you, immediately you're giving me true life. And so I can play with that and mold that and see where it takes us. Just in this very room last week, we were shooting green screen, and it's hard for the actor to imagine what's truly going on in this moment here. But because we set it up in a manner of what we call doing, I can give that direction to an actor, and it becomes believable for the screen, for the audience, for the moment.
So one of the things that has come up, and I've been talking about in class lately, both here at Truthful Acting and then also at UCF, where I teach in film, is most filmmakers, most of the of universities, programs that train filmmakers, they don't teach acting.
Right.
They don't teach filmmakers how to work with actors. They don't. It's just not part of the curriculum. The curriculum is more technical. It's cinematography and editing. I mean, those are really where it's at as far as the training for a filmmaker. Maybe going into storytelling or screenwriting, depending on the university you're at or the film program you're at. But it doesn't go into acting. And to me, that's one of the biggest areas a filmmaker needs to learn, yet so many filmmakers are coming into the industry and out of university programs without ever learning anything to do with acting. So I would love to just get your thoughts on that. What do you think about that?
I can only speak from post acting now. And what I mean by that is, before that, I would have assumed that my story that I wrote would be intriguing enough for the audience. So I get it, talking to a filmmaker, especially an up-and-coming filmmaker, that it's imperative that they train as an actor or take an acting class at least to make their craft better. They would be like, it's the last thing. I should learn lighting and cinematography and all of that. The technical stuff, as you had just mentioned. So I can only speak from a post-acting standpoint. So I'll say this. Once again, it gives real life and real emotion, the human condition aspect to the art that is being created. It truly turns it from something that looks cool to actual art. And art is something that we feel.
Yeah.
Right? It's not something that just looks pretty. It's not a great piece of content that we watch today and then forget about next week. No, it's something that stays with us
Yep.
It's our favorite movies. It's our favorite songs.
Right.
It's our favorite TV shows that stay with us. Why? Because there's a human element to it. And to learn that human element, we have to train as an actor. It's extremely important. Even with all this AI stuff coming out, I know a lot of filmmakers are a little afraid about losing their jobs and all of that. But the truth of the matter is just become a better storyteller by getting this human element, because they can't replace our voice. So even if everything does become AI, digitally replaced, and we don't film each other, we still need the human voice as a voiceover, which you must be a trained actor like Pixar to make us feel something.
What you were saying about that human element. We were talking earlier about things I rewatch over and over again, and you would think that one would get tired of watching something, but the people that I'm watching, the more I watch it, the more I just fall into them more, because there is no bottom to what it is. The feeling that they're exploring or they're going through, I'm feeling, and it's crazy every time I watch it. And to the acting classes, like, we try to go as deep as possible for the meaning, and for you as a director to understand that in your story you can explore deep and depth, and the more meaning, the more powerful, the more it comes across, the more it is universal. And there is something that Meisner said, and it says, if you want to reach every person in the audience, it's not about being bigger, it's about going deeper. And that is so true even for the directors. Yes, they have to learn the technical aspects of all of that. There's a time for that learning. And there's a time, I believe, for them to understand the language of the actor so that they can go to that deep level to explore that with actors who are trained. And I don't know. It's just, it speaks for itself. Because again, I watch things over and over again, and I know the scene is coming, and I'm like, I'm not going to get moved by this. And lo and behold, I'm just like, here we go. But that's just a testament to people who have studied that craft.
Yeah, it's a trigger, right? Emotion is like a trigger. Once we feel somebody else's authentic emotion, it triggers us to feel something, whether we want to or not, as long as we're open to it. And that, if we can put that into our art, you're going to have something that stands the test of time, because we'll always be human.
It's something, it's interesting, because when I'm teaching film students, of course, I'm trying to train them on acting and the importance of working with educated actors, trained actors.
Yeah.
How to work with actors going deeper in the performance. And every semester, the question keeps coming up, yeah, but how do I work with untrained actors? And I'm like, why would you want to work with untrained actors? And they're like, well, there's this idea that they're going to get a more authentic response by working with an untrained actor. It's like, oh, well, I just want to work with somebody. And because, and they bring up some example, who knows what. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what about the Florida Project? And they were able to get these kids. I'm like, those are kids. Kids can do, the kids don't need to be trained. That's different. Well, what about this and this? It's like, well, and they're bringing out these exceptions to the rule. And it's like, no, which means that there's an understanding or a perception of filmmaking that the filmmaker can make it work regardless of the actor. There's something that they can do, a trick they can say. And I try to tell them, no, there is no special direction. There's nothing you can do. You have to work with good actors. As a director, I mean, I haven't worked with untrained actors in a long time. So I've been very fortunate. Mm-hmm. But oh my God, my job is so easy working with trained actors. Yeah. Because my job is to guide the actor to try something. Let's try something. Let's see if it works. But if the actor's not willing to go there and willing to go there truthfully, then I can't explore that. And so but it's weird that there's this perception that technically they could make a performance even with somebody that's completely untrained. And it seems like there's a mass desire to do that. And I don't know where that's coming from, like this desire to work with untrained or work with, I don't know. It's weird.
I think it comes from laziness, to be truthfully honest. I could just get my best friend or I could get my brother, or I know so and so, and I've seen them look like an actor or do a moment for me, but they don't know what real acting is.
Right. So that's the thing. They just don't know.
They don't know what they're looking for.
And you can only take them as far as you can. There is a moment it stops. So even if they were charismatic and wonderful in this scene, and let's say the next scene or whatever that is, that thing that you maybe saw from, I don't know, dinner you were having with your friend or whatever, like, okay, do that thing again. It can be a one-off, a magical moment that happened, but that's it. Like, they can't base it. And I think they learned the hard way. And I think you're right. They want the comfort maybe of having people that they know, that family thing, that the safety, that's just being around that, instead of going and meeting new people and being challenged and being inspired and maybe not knowing everything, but learning together, like going through that journey together. There is a fear element that's interesting, the laziness or whatever, that quality but I see that a lot too. It is frustrating as well when people are like, oh, or someone who looks gorgeous or handsome, like, oh, there it is.
Right.
Like,
They'll go by a look and say, oh, this person looks the part. And I'm like, no. You always have to go with the best actor available, not the best looking actor, right? The one that looks the part.
Mm-hmm.
And, Nat, we have a common friend involved that has done that in the past, who, as a filmmaker, has cast someone that looks the best for the part, but was not the best actor or not the most professional actor. And what ends up happening is it sabotages the whole film.
Yes, it really does. And that's frustrating from my end, because I get to work with people who are doing casting and stuff like that. And I can tell they are so, let's say, in love is not the term, but they're so moved by this person because it's just looks as if. But then you compare that to someone who's had training for God knows how long, over 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, some longer. Like, why would you not go with somebody who can be, in my opinion, you can find something, you can explore something. Looks, costume design is a massive thing. So it's hard for me, even as an actor, when I'm not cast in certain things and I see them like, it can be frustrating, but the ability to maybe creatively change or something physically, you can do a lot. We live in 2024. Like, you can do a lot of stuff, but I see that people just seem to be like, oh, well, she just looks apart, so let me just go ahead and give that to her. It's like, you're cheating yourself.
Aside from the laziness, I'll kind of redact that statement and say that it's also just the unknowingness, because I would also cast somebody that looks the part prior to taking acting classes, as opposed to doing a real casting call. Or how I casted Natalie was just seeing her perform, and there's boom, the consistency. Because as you were saying before, your friend may have done a moment for you, but can they do scene after scene after scene after scene? That consistency takes skill, and skill is something that you work at consistently. You don't just do it overnight, and it takes time. And what it does is it builds confidence to step into these vulnerable moments that we require of the actor, and that's going to tell the story. Otherwise, if you have a non-actor, you're going to tell maybe a scene, because some of the other scenes might fall flat, and it's up to you to pull it out of them. And you don't want to deal with that. You want to play and collaborate on each individual scene and see where it can go. And that, as a director, is directing. That's the actual name, is to direct the actor.
Yeah.
And I think writers so early on, right, in a filmmaker's career, they are the writer, producer, director. They're everything. That's like when you go through film school, you're writing your own scripts. Not that you ever do that in the professional world, but that's how film schools work. So you're writing your own material. And so I think these characters are so personal to them when they're writing them, that when they see someone walk into the room that in any way resembles this image they have in their head, they want to capture that. They're like, oh, okay, that's going to work. But you're right. There's a lack of knowledge. There's a lack of, I think that's where it comes from. Like what I was talking about, there's a lack of training in acting. And in a university system, it's weird. So there's like an entire university, and then there's different schools. Right? So there's the School of Sciences and Arts, and there's School of Psychology, and School of Communications, and School of whatever it might be. So there's different schools. Well, the drama department is typically in a different school than the film department. They're separated.
Which is crazy.
So they don't work together because it's almost like having two different businesses, and there's something called lines of business, and so forth. And the most interesting thing is to me, why is the English department not writing the scripts for the film department?
It's beautiful.
And why is the drama department not supplying the actors for the film department? Like, why can't it all work together? But I mean, across the board, I mean, probably with the exception of some art schools,
right?
Carnegie Mellon and Juilliard, and maybe with the exception of some of those. But even at some of the better film schools, and I know the ones here in town, including the one I teach at, they don't talk to each other. So now you have film students that are not really writers, and they don't know anything about acting, who are writing their own scripts. They're now producing and directing their own scripts, and now they're looking for actors and don't understand acting. So we're training filmmakers in a really poor way because we're training them technically, and then they're going to get into the industry not knowing how to work with actors. And to me, as a director, that's the number one thing you have to do. As a director of film, and I try to teach my students this, you don't need to know how to work a camera. You don't need to understand cinematography. I mean, it's great if you do. But you have department heads that will do that. You have a cinematographer that is going to handle all of your lighting and your camera. You need to have the vision of what you want it to look like. Your cinematographer takes care of all of it. You have a sound department that's going to handle all of that. You even have a production and design department that's going to handle all of that. So what's left as the director? Well, what's left is the working with the actor, because there's no other department that is working with the actor except the director.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a department head that does that. We have an AD. We have a second AD that's in charge of actors, but they're in charge of wrangling us and moving us around and telling us where we're ready and moving us into hair and makeup and wardrobe. But other than that, it's like, no, directing actors. So it's like there's a missing piece on this. And it's funny, I was watching an interview. Ethan Hawke was doing an interview recently and said the same thing. He's like, why don't film schools teach acting? It's a missing thing, especially since when you look at the history of directors, the best directors have been actors first.
Correct.
But we're not teaching that. So I try to get all of my students, my filmmaking students, like take an acting class.
Yes. Whether
it's here at our studio or somewhere else, but like take an acting class. That's going to be the biggest thing that separates you from everyone else. And if there's any filmmakers out there, I mean, really study acting. If you really want to be a filmmaker of narrative things. And I mean, I'm even a big believer that documentary and everything still has to do with acting. But if you're going to be a director of narrative, you have to understand acting. And you don't have to be an actor yourself, meaning be a professional actor, but you have to study it.
I still walk that tightrope. Like, am I an actor or am I a filmmaker that's studying acting? And while I don't know the answer to that question, I find that my filmmaking storytelling has gotten so much sharper by training as an actor. I guess like via project, I wouldn't just say those things if I weren't consistently making projects. But we do have a film that is it was a selection, internationally for a film festival.
Right.
And so I wrote that in 2 hours. We shot it in 1 day. I edited the film in 1 day and then submitted it. And we're going up against other teams that had the full 72 hours. We made it in 48 hours. But I understand as a filmmaker, first and foremost, I have a process, which is it. You were touching base on like what a director should do. And I think they should have great managerial experience. Being able to run a team, is extremely important. And so I know how to run my film set, like what I'm looking for, what I need, that kind of stuff. So I had that on lock. I know how to make my own shot list, break everything down. So I went into making this film with my process, except with the new element of understanding acting. So I relied on, well, what are our strengths to make this film? It's certainly not going to be cinematography because I'm the only cameraman, and I have to direct, and I have to gaff and light my set, and I have to do audio,
Everything, yeah.
and I have to test, and I have to talk to my actors. So what's the strength here? My actors.
Yeah.
So I relied on that in the storytelling when I wrote the script. I focused on very short, easy lines, no monologues, nothing of that. And this kind of goes back to our craft class that we just had. You showed us some great exercises where there's no deep story here at all.
Right.
But depending on the craft or the life that you give it, that's where it really comes to life. So I utilized that in the script. It's like, let's keep these lines as simple as possible. And then lo and behold, the script itself ended up working very well. Because I'll tell you what, from a filmmaker standpoint, if they watch my film, they're like, this shot's not that great. This shot's not that angle's not that good. This lighting's not that good. They could pick it apart from a technical aspect. But if it was selected, I'm assuming it's because the performances or it made a judge feel something, which is that missing element of the acting.
Which is, to me, the acting is the most important thing.
I agree.
One of the most important things, anyway, in film. Meaning, I'll watch something that is not shot well, but is performed well, as long as the audio is good. To me, audio is probably the most important thing in filmmaking. But, for example, Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Blair Witch Project, which was 90s, right? It was
97.
97. Okay. So it was 97. It was a couple of UCF grads that went up and filmed it in Maryland. They didn't have a lot of money and said, okay, how do we do this? And it was brilliant. This was the start of found footage. You know, they started a genre.
Whole genre.
But what a brilliant thing. It's like, all right, well, we don't have a lot of money. We only have a little bit of money to do some 16 millimeter film, but we don't have enough to make an entire movie on 16 millimeter. So, okay, we can do video as well. And we're going to make it look, we're going to actually give cameras to the actors and let them film stuff. And it doesn't have to be shot well. Because it's going to be like, oh, and they came up with, what a brilliant story, what a brilliant idea. And shooting it for thousands of dollars versus millions of dollars. But it's not shot well. I mean, meaning like we're not looking at, this is brilliant cinematography. This is brilliant. It's not brilliantly lit. No, they're using natural light. They're using what they had available. But the acting was really good. The acting was good. And then the audio, however they cleaned up audio and made that work. Those two things came together and we're watching it. Paranormal Activity. Is there cinematography in Paranormal Activity? They're cameras from like up ahead. They're like, we're watching security cameras. That's all we're watching. But it's brilliant because we're following the story and the acting is decent.
Yes.
Versus we can go the other way and we can watch a beautifully put together. Well, you said you recently watched The Phantom Menace.
Okay, I didn't want to bring it up.
Right, I know. We didn't want to. I know. Okay, we're gonna go down this weird Star Wars rabbit hole. But Natalie, her first film, and to me this was a mistake. Everyone, her first Star Wars film was The Phantom Menace. She figured if she watches it in chronological order, I know it's not the way it's supposed to be watched.
Horrible.
So
you can just go watch Dune now.
Oh no, I think that's gonna. No, I don't know if that's a good progression.
It's a good.
Not
for me to go to sleep, maybe.
But it was, but it's pretty
On mute.
That's what I'm saying.
And
though.
that's a Star Wars film, and it's so expensive.
It's pretty and it's beautiful, and there's a lot of really
robots and all whatever. But the acting, and these are massively incredible, the famous and talented actors. Terrible.
It's because Lucas is to me a brilliant visionary. He's a really good storyteller as far as conceptually, because the story is real. The Phantom Menace story, the whole prequel story. It's really well thought out. It's poorly executed from an acting standpoint, but that's not the actors. As an actor, what people don't understand, we do what the director wants.
Yes.
The director's job is to guide and mold the actor into the performance.
What they're looking for, whatever the director kind of is feeling for this movie for him.
And Lucas, for whatever reason, wanted this very underplayed, flat performance. That was the
From
style
everybody.
he was looking for.
Yep.
And, I mean, someone like Liam Neeson can make anything work. So,
All right.
so Liam Neeson was decent. Ewan McGregor was decent. Outside of that, it was like, this is just flat.
And I love all of them, by the way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're
Side
wonderful
note,
actors.
I don't look at them as being horrible actors, but yes, the direction that they put into this movie for them to all like.
And if you went into the second one, which is better, Attack of the Clones is better.
Has to be better than that.
But even the second one with Hayden Christensen is the same thing. He pulled Hayden Christensen down into this very flat performance, this very surface level performance, which is what a lot of people had issues with of the movies. But here's the opposite, where cinematography, it's beautiful and sound. I mean, everything about the world is beautiful, but it's like, meh.
But I have a question about this, like an actor question, because there are certain actors in recent films, big budget, we'll leave it out of genre and all of that. They're flat. And these are amazing actors that have done incredible depth of work. But some of these performances are extremely flat. And to me, that is it's a cash grab, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the truth or not, but I would like to say that is how hard acting is, right? If you're not dialed in or afraid to jump into these moments, it looks false and it looks flat, and there is no actual life. It's just Samuel L. Jackson saying these lines.
I would say in film, it's the director's fault.
Yeah.
You have take after take. You're using these actors.
Yeah.
It's not that the actors can't go there. It's where you directed to go.
Yeah.
As an actor, we won't, even the best of the best actors, we won't naturally go to our fullest extent without direction.
And that could be coming from the top too, right? The studio.
Yeah.
Telling the director, pull it back, or.
Could be. Usually it's the director. It depends. If it's a studio film, meaning, when you're doing something that's in like the $30 to $50 million range, there's not a big name director attached. It's more of a studio project. Then the producers are going to have a lot of say in the creative, aspect of the film. If it's a director's piece, if we're talking about Christopher Nolan, if we're talking about Tarantino, if we're any of the big directors, it's completely on them. And if they're not pushing the acting, then they're not pushing the acting. And most of the time, which most people don't understand, is there's a single take that's used in the edit. But as an actor, we've recorded many takes.
Yeah.
We could have had a really strong emotional take that for whatever reason they decided not to use.
Yeah.
Because they're in the edit is where the story comes together. That's where we're piecing it and creating the ebb and the flow. And for whatever reason, they might not want. Some directors don't like the big emotional stuff.
That's a really good point to even bring into this topic that we're talking about, the filmmaking, and speaking to filmmakers editing this film. There were some really incredible, vulnerable moments that I was given by these actors. But if I put it in the edit, in the timeline, it felt different.
Right.
In the sequence.
Yes.
Maybe with the music. I tried all kinds of different ways, switching the color correction, switching the sound that's playing there. But it was actually changing the takes of the actor, pulling back on their emotion, so to speak. More so looking like they have a secret, like we talk about. If you take an acting class, you'll know what that means. And that looks so much more strong in a moment. But I just think that that's imperative for a filmmaker to understand too, is that if you're given such amazing takes by your actor, you have so much more in the timeline to play with and see how your story can breathe in different ways.
Yeah, the film is built in the edit.
Yeah.
That's where, so when I teach, right, I teach directing. And so when I'm teaching directing, what I try to tell them is that because we think, when we get into filmmaking, we think it's about production. We think, oh, the film is about shooting.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, believe it or not, production is still the planning stages. The film is made in the edit. Everything else is just preparation for the edit. That's all it is. We're gathering pieces in production, but then the pieces we're gathering, we're going to give to our editor. And that's when the film is actually constructed, not when we're shooting it. But it's interesting how so many filmmakers don't want to push it to the emotional place. They're afraid of that emotional place. Probably because they're afraid of emotion. These are younger filmmakers. Now, we're talking about big budget things. We're talking about, when I look at a performance and I say, well, the performance wasn't strong, and I'm trying to, like, when I'm trying to reverse engineer it, is it the actor or is it the director? You have to look at the full body of work of the actor. If the actor has done things that have gone there, well, then it's the director. But if the actor has never done anything to get there, well, then it could be the actor. You see what I mean? It depends on where that is. So sure, when I watch some of the modern day Marvel stuff, and I don't know,
my favorite is when they all died. When at least half of them. Oh my God, it was wonderful.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, Nat.
It was, because I felt like there was some soul into it. I was like, oh, there they go. Like I felt, but the other ones were they're lovely, they're fun. But I felt more engaged when I was like, what happened? He just disappeared. They all disappeared. I remember 11-year-olds were crying. I felt bad.
You look at some of the more recent Marvel stuff. I don't know, the Doctor Strange 2 thing. I'm like, what's happening?
Oh,
because you have great actors that have done great things. So it's like, okay, it's not the acting.
Yeah.
You have a great director that has done great things. So it's like, where's the disconnect? Is it the storytelling? Is it the studio? Is it like, what is happening that that movie didn't work for me? And it felt like a mess. Not a big of a mess as the Ant-Man quantum something. Anyway, it's like that.
Try to forget that I've seen these.
Again, brilliant actors.
Right.
Who have done brilliant things. So, and that's where you have to look at it and say, as an actor can only do as much as they're directed into and as what they're given, especially in film. This is why actors need to train on stage. On stage, that's the actor's world. When you're on stage, it's just you. And I love that. As an actor, I love the pressure that we're under. It's like everything lives or dies with us. It's a live performance. You're living and breathing this as it's going. If you're not bringing it that night, then it's not going to be as strong of a performance. So I love that. I love directing theater. I love acting in theater. In film, it's much different. We go and we're shooting things in these 20-second increments. We're doing exactly what we're told by the director. They're telling us to do other things. We do those things, whatever it is. We might give a brilliant live performance, but depending on how it's now edited together, it's no longer up to us. So acting in film to me the actor is much less involved than we think.
Yeah.
It's such a small piece because camera angle and then editing and sound and all of that stuff.
It's not their medium. It's not out where we are really shining in that medium, even though you see the actors, but that's not what the actors did because it is snipped and however is edited. At the end of the day, it's the directors and the editors' wheelhouse.
Right. They're the ones that make it.
They're the ones.
We had, there was something interesting happened a few years ago that I don't know if it's ever happened before, but there was a movie called Justice League. Right? Am I thinking of the right one? Right? So, but there were two versions of the same movie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There was Joss Whedon's movie that he came out with, right? He had to take over and kind of mid-project, but he created his version of the movie, which is very campy and very, I don't know, very colorful, campy, just kind of
Very
weird.
Marvel.
Very Marvel, like, yeah, something. I don't know. It was, even though it was DC, right? But it was very, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I guess that's what he was
started
trying to
with that one.
chase.
Marvel was hitting it big.
Yeah. So it was like, but it was interesting. But then Zack Snyder, it was his project to begin with, came back. He had to step away, but he came back and then he re-edited using different takes than Whedon. So he didn't use the same takes. So now we're seeing different takes of the same scenes. He re-edited it. It feels completely different.
Mm-hmm. Go figure.
I still don't know if it's good, but it's still
different.
But we don't ever get to see that. We don't ever get to see two movies re-edited with the same footage, the same takes, the same everything else, right? Same actors, same performers. It's actually a neat thing to go and watch one of them and just watch a scene from one of them and then go to the other one, watch the same scene. It's like, these are the same actors, same everything else. But through the edit process, it feels completely different. And I think I wish there was more of that.
That's interesting.
To me, it's such a brilliant way to learn about filmmaking. It's like both of these directors created their piece of art off of the same material. It's
That
like,
is,
wow.
yeah. I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to pick some scenes and do that.
Yeah, just do it just for the education of it.
Just for the
Just
education.
scenes,
Like,
not,
what is this?
not for the...
I can't. But what you're saying about actors learning in theater, I want to reiterate because that's a hard one to drop on some people who start acting and they want to be Tom Cruise or whatever. They want to be superstars on film.
Right.
And somebody was asking me that before, and they're like, do you need that for film acting on stage? I was like, listen, I don't know how to explain this to you, but every single thing I've ever learned is through the theater. There is no way for my brain, if I was an actor for film first, that I could even reverse engineer and go do theater, because the movies are so cut up. It's so disjointed. It makes zero sense. If you don't have a lovely way to understand storytelling and the arcs and the rises and the falls and all the nuances that go in and that you learn in acting class and you learn through experience and all this stuff, I can't even imagine the pressure that somebody can go through if they went into film first or got a massive, wonderful exposure with film, because eventually all roads lead back to acting class, because they'll say, you know what, you did great in this one, kiddo, but you need some classes. They wind up in classes. These stars, if you want to call them, who just have who made it through their charisma, and they wanted to say, I want to go deeper. I want to be an actor, and they go to classes.
You can't. Most people, I think most actors, or most people that start acting, I would say that most people start because of film and television. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are the few that grew up in theater and, take the theater route, but that's a very small percentage. Most, it's because we're watching something. We're watching film, television. We get connected to it. And it's like, I want to do that. And so that's what starts us down the journey. So we enter acting class thinking, I want to be a film actor. And we think, just because we don't have the knowledge of what acting is, we think that we can study film acting without studying theater acting, and that there's a difference. And of course, in the United States, there has been a divide between theater and film, and there are studios all over the country that will say, well, we're a film acting studio, which there is no such thing. Mm-hmm. Film acting, I'm going to put that in quotes, film acting does not exist. Meaning, sure, we could act on film just like we can act on stage, but acting is acting is acting. It's all of the same thing. And for the actor, what I try to explain to actors, everything we do as an actor is live. Even when we're filming in front of a camera on a set, we're still performing live, meaning it's still theater. Everything we learn about live performance still, just because someone's recording us, that doesn't change what we're doing. It's still theater. And so we need to learn all of the aspects of theater. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And this is what all the great actors coming from London and Australia and South America. I mean, they're all theater trained.
Yeah.
And it's not that theater's a different thing. Everyone thinks, and yet, like you were saying, Nat, I think an actor can go from theater to film very easily.
Oh,
we cannot go from film to theater.
God bless whoever has and gone through that, because I only can see it as torturous, as the mental stress that I would not wish upon anybody. And I just think about it and I get sweaty because I'm just thinking, thank goodness that I wanted to go through this route and was open to it. But talking to people who don't know, because they don't know yet until they know.
Right.
When they think, like you're saying, that, well, no, I can just do film. You're like, whoa there, Nelly.
I think the what you guys are touching on as a filmmaker, it's very hard to understand theater is important as an actor, but it comes from an energy standpoint. The consistency that we were talking about before. Making movies are long days.
Yeah.
Long days. Sometimes you're there 12, 14 hours, and you don't want a film actor who's toasted, completely drained, because they're giving you real life by, the 7th or 8th hour, and you still have a whole shot list that you need to go through, and you're trying to get them to pull through. Here, have another Celsius. It's like, no, I need you to pull through, and they get that momentum and that energy training through theater. But you don't know this until you take the journey yourself in the acting classes. I personally came from a film television background. Even wanting to act as a young boy growing up, I still would have wanted to hop in front of the camera first.
Right.
But until I took an acting class and we, our final performance is that of a play, there is a flow state, a momentum that you get to find that I hold very close to my heart because I grew up in extreme sports, and it reminds me a lot of that, trying to find that rhythm and flow in space and time. And I love that. And you really grow not only your energy and consistency, but mainly your confidence to do that. So if it is hour 13 on set and we need a devastating moment coming from you because it's finally dark outside, well, my actor knows at 8 a.m. that morning, my devastating moment isn't until later this evening. So I'm going to pace myself. Whereas, a film actor, it wouldn't be that way. They don't have that knowledge.
The knowledge. That's the thing. They don't. So for all of you actors out there, or maybe wannabe actors, you're thinking about getting into it and you're thinking, well, no, I just want to just study film. You don't learn the tools needed to hit that devastating moment, or needed to be able to go 10 hours, or learning the stamina or the endurance. You don't have the tools when you take a direct to film acting course. They teach you the technical things that we teach here in a single semester. Juilliard teaches it in a single semester. It's film. It's like the technique. It's like how to hit a mark and how to have stillness in frame. Those are things that you can learn very quickly, which are really just an adaptation of what we do on stage already. But the endurance of doing that, the need for rehearsal, all of the different personalization tools, that's all theater. And I say theater, it's made for film too, but in this country especially. If you go to, as I say, go to London, Australia, South America, acting is acting is acting. They're not separating out film versus theater. It's just different executions of the acting. But here, because of, it's the capitalism. Everyone's trying to make money off something. It's like, oh, I'm going to just sell film acting. It's like, well, there's no such thing. And
how to cry on cue.
Yeah, how to cry on cue. Jeez.
I work with some of those people at other things that I do with simulation and stuff. And it's crazy. It's just amazing how many people have leaned on, that's fine, or invested in that type of education, acting education.
Yeah.
And they believe that's it. But it's like you can go so much deeper without it being a technical thing. And either way, you would have to invest your time and energy towards the most high quality thing you can. And when you always talk about the Brits and the Australians, and I always say that the same thing. Like I learned from you in that aspect. Why are they always getting cast? We talk about this over and over again. Like Superman's British, Magneto, they're all British. And then saying that to some students or people, they don't even know, like he's what? The Spider-Mans are all whatever you want to call it. I was watching The Crown and I look at the woman who was Princess Margaret. They're all amazing, by the way. She's been doing theater for like 15 years. She's phenomenal. A force to be reckoned with. But it just shows when you research, that's where the training is. Everyone from The Crown has been in theater for 10 years, 5 to 10 years. It's great, minimum.
That fierceness that you're talking about comes from theater training.
Yes, it does.
Right? I think of Denzel or Viola Davis. Like there's such an intensity, which is just confidence. They're confident to go to those vulnerable places. And that comes from theater work.
And you learn that, right? You learn that in theater, which is live performance. Because in theater, we have momentum. You start at the beginning of the play and you run it through to the end of the play. We don't have that in film. Film is all over the place. And it's piece by piece by piece, not in order. So as we're filming, we're just filming these little slivers. We're trusting the director. The director's collecting whatever they can. So we need to bring all of our tools that we have from theater, and then we learn how to chop them up and put them into the different pieces.
Yeah.
We don't learn that. And I know there's a lot of, what happens in these quick classes, because this takes deep level training, right? To get really into the industry, it takes deep level training. And what happens with these quick classes is they'll promise to get the actor into the industry.
Yeah.
They're not lying about getting an actor into the industry. They just don't tell the complete truth. What that means is that, very quickly you can take a 12-week course or even, a 4-month course or whatever it is, a 6-month course. You can take something short term and you could get into the lower rungs of the industry. You can be a background talent. You can be what's called the featured extra, where you don't have any lines, but you're recognizable on screen. You can have what's called a day player role, which you're hired for either a day or two to be like, you have a few lines of dialogue with a star. So, I mean, it's feels really legitimate. And those are important roles. But there's a thought that, okay, if I can get to that rung of the ladder, I can climb the ladder from within.
Mm-hmm.
And what they don't understand is you can't. When you're in the industry, you can't learn acting from film. Film is so technical, it's not going to teach you how to deepen yourself as an artist. So I see so many actors jump into the industry. They take the quick course to get there. They're now a day player and they're doing a couple different shows. And it's cool, right? I'm on this big show. Sure. It's on Netflix and this big show. And that's really, it is cool to do that. But without the deeper training, they can't go anywhere else. Because when they have, if something happens where they have an opportunity to audition for that co-starring role or for that supporting role on a big film or something, they won't be able to match with Denzel or Viola, or they're not ready to do that. They haven't done that deeper training. They don't have the tools. And that's why I feel so bad for so many of these actors, because they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, until they know.
Until they know. And they've been trained, unfortunately, to think that they don't need anything else.
Yes.
Same with the filmmakers out there. They don't know who what they're looking for when they're casting.
Yeah.
But once you train, you know what you're looking for. And you could see, this actor is completely different than this one. And I'm not putting those two in a scene because you're going to feel the difference when you're watching it.
Right.
That's extremely important to know. So there's something to the understanding of acting to be a well-rounded artist overall. I even think I would go as far as saying that musicians should also take acting classes, because it's not about acting. It's not about like being in front of the camera or on stage. It's actually about the human condition.
Yes.
And it's so much deeper, like we've been talking about, the depths of the human condition. And what it does for you is firstly make you a better human, of course, depending on the type of, I don't want to get into techniques or anything like that, but the where you study has a lot to do with it as well. But mainly it makes you a better human being. So if you're any kind of artist, it's only going to make you a better storyteller.
Very nice. Well, I think that is our point where we're actually done with this episode.
Wow.
Believe it or not. I know I went quick, right? That was a fast
big
conversation.
day.
That was good.
Yeah, that was fun. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much
Today,
for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're
And-
amazing.
And Nat, it's been fun as always. And
As always.
we'll do it again soon. And everyone else out there, thank you so much. And we will be back with you again soon. And so stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to learn more about our studio and what we do, you can find us online at truthfulacting.com. And check out truthfulactingonline.com for our Learn at Home at Your Own Pace courses.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.